Day 9 of jury selection. Now, I guess there's a possibility the jury could be seated today. Maybe not. It kind of all depends. What is your kind of outlook on the situation?
I think it's more likely than not they're going to seat the jury today. I think overall, as we've seen, they've been moving quicker than anyone really anticipated, because remember, we thought this was going to be a 3-week process all the way until April 25th. And I think for the most part, some of the issues that people were worried about were, the exposure from the last trial, how that would influence people. And that really hasn't been a huge factor, as we can see so far in the jury selection. So it's highly likely that they'll get 2 today. Worst case scenario, they'll get 1 today, 1 tomorrow. But I think in terms of the way that things have been going and really moving in this case, I wouldn't be surprised if they've got both of the additional jurors that they needed today.
What do you think we could see? Opening statements might be Wednesday, tomorrow. We're not kind of sure. Still waiting to see how it all shakes out. But what do you think some of the things we could see in opening statements from both sides could be?
So remember that opening statements are either side's opportunity to tell a story. And I think a lot of the critiques that were made last time, especially on the prosecution side, was that there wasn't really a good story being told. And I don't want to downplay that this is not a criminal case and calling it storytelling, but you want to really bring the jurors in and bring whoever your audience is in to kind of persuade them as to what you believe that you're going to be able to tell. And so the openings are really a roadmap as to what evidence will be brought in, what they can anticipate. And so I think we'll really, really see a nice roadmap, I would assume, from both sides, especially from the prosecution side with the new ADA who's taking on this case. But I think it's going to be a little bit more cleaner. I think it's going to be a little bit more crisper. You're going to see a lot of mentioning of who the experts potentially could be. There's a number of witnesses on the list. So I think we're going to be expecting a refreshing opening from both sides on this case.
Now, the federal court ruled on the buffer zone on Friday. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that means for this case moving forward? I know some of the supporters were upset that the buffer zone had been kind of extended to spots they'd gathered during the last trial.
So I think the most important thing to remember is that we want a fair and impartial trial. And I think that it's great that Karen Read supporters are out there, and I think that they have every right to be out there. I think the concern is just the level of noise that has been allegedly reported from people outside, and how that actually affects what's going on inside of the courtroom. I think despite the fact that all of the members or the potential members in the jury have heard about the case, they still don't want to be influenced in any particular way. A lot of people are watching the case, live streaming, so they'll be outside of the courthouse while the case is actually happening. And I think, it's about that noise and cheering and other types of noise that potentially could be heard while the trial is going on, could kind of be distracting, kind of be a nuisance. So I understand that there were some arguments about First Amendment rights and things of that nature. I think they have those rights to be there. They have a First Amendment to have that freedom to be there and speak and all those things. But it's about creating a fair and impartial trial without the outside influence that potentially could happen for the jurors who are inside.
So are you surprised that the temporary restraining order got denied?
No, I'm not surprised at all. And I think the court has to weigh the balances, right? And so the court understands that this is a retrial in a high profile case. And what are the balances that they're taking into consideration? It's the ability for these supporters to be able to, support their side versus having the impartial, fair, unbiased trial. I think having the fair, unbiased trial is going to trump every time, right? Because, hopefully there'll be a resolution in this one, but you don't want to have another situation where there's a mistrial for some reason because a juror was influenced in one particular way. So the balance of the harms is definitely going to be in favor of the court and in favor of an impartial trial.
Now, say a couple people got lost over the weekend from the jury. Maybe it's not happening today. What are you kind of your outlook? Do you think maybe tomorrow, the next day? What would your outlook be?
Again, I think that we're really close. We're really only looking for two more additional jurors. So I think, again, even if we had one or two drop off, I think in one of the days they were able to pick up two. So I think it's likely that either today, if not, worst case scenario, I think likely tomorrow we'll see a full jury and be able to swear them in.